Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. Today we're going to look at one of my favorite decks, a deck I play on Pokemon TCG Online a lot when I just want to have a fun, quick game, and that is Machamp. So let's take a look at the big Machamp. Stage 2 Pokemon has the ability Fighting Fury. Each of your fighting Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this makes your fighting Pokemon even stronger. And when you combine Machamp with Strong Energy, which adds 20 damage to your fighting Pokemon's attacks, and when you add that to Muscle Band, that adds 20 more damage. And when you add Fighting Stadium, that adds 20 more damage against Pokemon EX, then, well, you are doing a lot of extra damage. And that is pretty cool to see how quickly these numbers add up. So the goal here is going to be get a bunch of Machamp into play and then use all of our fighting attackers to do big amounts of damage. Pretty cool. I think so anyway. Of course, the drawback is Machamp is a stage 2, so it's going to be a little difficult to get out, but it is worth it. It is so much fun to see how much damage you can rack up. Kind of silly. Now, Machamp has the attack Machamp Crush, 80, and then any damage done for the defending Pokemon is reduced by 40. We are rarely going to use Machamp Crush. I have used it against Pyro decks. Surprisingly, it has worked. But most of the time, you're not going to be using Machamp Crush. 3 fighting energy is just too much. Alright? Just too much to power up. And you don't want to put Machamp in harm's way. He just kind of sits there and gives your Pokemon a big boost. So then we got to figure out what are the fighting Pokemon we want to play. First one's going to be Landorus EX, pretty common fighting Pokemon we see in pretty much every fighting deck. Maybe not in Donphan anymore, but Landorus is just really good. Hammerhead, 30, and the 32 bench Pokemon. Just some quick, addition here to see how much damage a Hammerhead can actually do. If we have one Machamp in play, Fighting Stadium, Muscle Band, and a Strong Energy, that is 80 additional damage against a Pokemon EX, which means we can Hammerhead for 110 damage for a single energy. Now, that's pretty silly if you ask me, and it can get even bigger if you add a few more Machamp into the mix. So that's just awesome to think about. That's efficiency for 1 energy, and then hitting the bench as well. Pretty cool. We're also going to play a Lucario EX. I'm not very fond of this card. I thought it would be much better when it came out than it really is, but no, it's just not a great card. But Missile Jab can be useful against Pokemon that resist fighting. So we're going to at least throw them in here. You never know. Corkscrew Smash can bail you out as well sometimes to draw until you have 6. But overall, the attack costs are just too big. The Psychic weakness is just bad. And Lucario EX, I wish it were better, but I don't think it is. Could run a Mega Lucario, but yeah, we're not going to do that. Alright, so our other fighting Pokemon are actually what I feel are the focus of the deck. The game is shifting a little bit more towards non-EX attackers, with Donphan being the big one. We do see most decks revolve around Pokemon EX, but Donphan is making it tougher to just use straight Pokemon EX. It's just too efficient. The spinning turn can knock you out in 2 hits. Donphan goes to the bench. It's just super annoying. So I feel like a better strategy is to start using non-EXs again. So let's look at the ones we have here. First one's going to be Landorus, who has Shout of Power. Does 20 and then gets a basic energy out of the discard. Attaches it to one of your benched Pokemon. So this can be much like Thundurus EX's Riding Knuckle. Does little damage. Powers up your bench Pokemon. Pretty good. Non-EX. Howlucha. I feel like this is one of the strongest cards in this deck. So it only has 70 HP, but it's a free retreat, which is really cool. And resistance to fighting helps out quite a bit. Shining Spirit can be a double-edged sword. It's not, their attacks aren't affected by weakness or resistance. So what happens is, against things that are weak to fighting, you go, oh, I can't knock out a Thundurus EX in 1 hit with a Strong Energy and a Muscle Band. It won't apply the weakness, but against something like an Yveltal EX, they don't apply resistance now. So now we do even more damage. So it's good and bad. But Flying Press, 60, only can hit Pokemon EX, though. Nothing else. Just Pokemon EX. Now, this is one of the coolest cards to have when you have Machamp in the mix. I have knocked out a Pokemon EX in one hit with this little guy before. How in the world would I happen to do that? Well, we do 60 from the start, and I happen to have 3 Machamp in play, because they do stack. You know, for each one you have in play, it does 20 more damage. So right off the bat, that is 120 damage. And then we threw a Strong Energy on there, and a Silver Bangle, and all of a sudden, that's 170 damage, and, well, that was one Yveltal EX that did not survive the wrath of Hawlucha. So, I love this little guy. He is a quick hitter, does some big, big damage. Very good against Seismitoad EX early on as well. And then the last one's going to be Terrakion. I feel like this card is forgotten quite a bit, but it is very strong with the release of Strong Energy. Retaliate does 30, plus 60 if one of your Pokemon was knocked up by an opponent's attack during a previous turn. So it can do 90 for 2. And again, with all those damage modifiers, we can get up to 130, 150, 170. It can be very, very powerful. And then Land Crush just does the straight 90. So this is actually very good against Donphan decks. When they take a knockout, all you need is a Strong Energy and a Muscle Band, or a Strong Energy and a Machamp, and you can Lysander out their Donphan and retaliate it for a knockout. And since it is 130 HP, it's a non-EX, it's going to trade pretty efficiently against Donphan. So it's a nice card to have in your deck. Alright, so those are the Pokemon. It's a pretty cool deck, I feel like. A little clunky, but definitely fun to play with. Let's take a look at the other stuff in here. We have 4 Professor Juniper. We have 4 N, 2 Lysander. I was just talking about that. 3 Karina. This is really what makes the deck work. Gets your fighting Pokemon out. It's awesome to grab a rare candy and a Machamp with Karina. Really cool. We can search for a fighting Pokemon and an item card. 2 Colress, and then 2 VS Seeker as well. A couple Ultra Ball in here. We don't need the regular 4 because we have the Karina to search out our Pokemon. 2 Switch, and then 1 Escape Rope for our switching cards. Professor's Letter, just another card to grab with Karina in case we just need an energy. 3 Rare Candy, that's all we're going to need with our 3-1-3 Machamp line here. And I just want to point out Machoke. I don't think this will ever come up in a game, but if its remaining HP is 10, it does 20 plus 70 more damage for 1 energy. I don't really know how that'll come up in a game. 80 damage, not a very common number, I don't think. And most of the time your opponent can probably work around that, but just something I wanted to point out. We have 1 Startling Megaphone for Garbodor. We might need more than 1, but Lysander can target down Garbodor, I suppose. And then 1 Computer Search. I feel like this is a great A-Spec card when you're playing Karina, just to be able to grab this, and then everything is okay in the world. You can search for whatever you want. And then the 4 Strong Energy. This is really, again, what makes the deck work. Just adding the additional damage. Such a super duper good card. Very, very strong, as the name says. And then 7 Fighting Energy. We are all fighting all the time in this deck. And like I said, this deck's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not quite sure how competitive it is, but I have fun and I compete pretty much every time I play. So let's go ahead and play a game on Pokemon TCG Online and see if we can pull off some magic with Machamp. He does have 4 arms, which makes him super powerful, just saying. And when you got 4 arms, you can punch 4 times, and that's pretty good. So, alright, we're going up against the Seismitoad EX, which is not something I'd like to see, because it shuts off my rare candy, and that's just not good news for Machamp. We see an Ultra Ball for a Pokemon that is blank. This has been happening to me a lot on Pokemon TCG Online recently, and it would be nice to know what that card actually is. Looks like it is a Trubbish, as we see by hovering over it, but I don't know why that keeps happening. It's pretty annoying, though. Alright, so Seismitoad, Garbodor, pretty It's a relatively common deck, so definitely know what we're going up against. So there are all sorts of things that could be in there, but we know the basic strategy: Quaking Punch and take away my abilities. These are things that are going to make it very difficult for me to win. So, I don't know. I decided to computer search for a Karina so we can get Hawlucha in play. And then we can also grab an item card. So, I mean, what do we grab with this item card? I am most likely going to be hit by Quaking Punch next turn, which means I can't play an item card. So I should probably take one that I can use. And I already have a Switch, I have a Muscle Band, I have a VS Seeker, all things I will be playing this turn, but it's like, what can I take that I can play? And I'm actually just going to take Professor's Letter because it's something I can play. I could have grabbed, like Muscle Band or Silver Bangle, but I would have had to put it on Machamp, and that's not good. But this is a very strong first turn, and this is what Hawlucha can do for you against a Seismitoad. Right out the gates, strong energy, Muscle Band, 100 damage. Take that. Now he's going to need Muscle Band, Laser, and Verbank just to knock out my little guy here. And if he does, that'll be really annoying, but again, it's going to take a lot. And if Hawlucha survives, that's amazing. We'll just be able to Flying Press. But there is an Enhanced Hammer, one of my least favorite cards. Boo, Enhanced Hammer. It's pretty annoying, but oh well. And it looks like Muscle Band. Will we see the Laser and the Verbank, though? That is what we are waiting to see here. And we see a Zekrom come down. Kind of an interesting card. I don't really see Zekrom in this kind of a deck very often, but hey, it's there. And okay, now I have a decision to be making. I could just Flying Press Knockout, or I could use Landorus to Shout of Power, get an extra energy in play. We do have a Fighting in the discard, I think. If I remember correctly, we should. But, yeah, it seems just fine to Flying Press here. Get the knockout, and then we can recover with Landorus next turn if need be. And let's just take the 2 prizes. Why not? Put the pressure on my opponent. Don't give him an easy way to just keep using Quaking Punch. Force him to have energy. Force him to have Double Colorless or some way to do something this turn. That's really my deciding factor there. If I weren't worried about that, I probably would just take a step back and Shout of Power. Power up Terrakion and go from there. But now we have a Zekrom to deal with. He's going to Outrage for knockout on Hawlucha. It is weak to Lightning. Also only had 20 HP left, so recipe for disaster. I'm going to drop the strong energy on Landorus and hope we can get like Rare Candy, Machamp, and a Muscle Band, but nope. Nope, that's not happening. Got a bunch of Machamp, just waiting on those Machamp to come into play. We have ample opportunity here. This would be the big turn to get the Machamp going. Oh, man, but oh well. So instead, we're going to have to Shout of Power, and it's going to do 80 damage. Bit of a bummer. Don't want to put the Muscle Band on. It would have just put me into Outrage range. Right, he just would have used Outrage and knocked me out. It's not a very good plan, so we're not going to do that. So now we see a Super Scoop Up. What is going on here? I guess I would have picked up the Zekrom. It would have made my life miserable. We see Hypnotoxic Laser after that. And Chorus for 7 is what it's going to be. We see another Seismitoad come down with a Water Energy, so very much so a straight Seismitoad deck with Gardevoir. And then maybe like a Zekrom and Reshiram kind of thing. You can tell by the Water Energy and the high amounts of Seismitoad. And a Muscle Band on Zekrom actually knocks out Landorus. For some reason, it does not resist Lightning. And I do not understand why, but hey, I do not design the cards, so what do I know? Alright, let's drop a Muscle Band and a Silver Bangle, because I'm about to Chorus for 7 here and try to get some kind of fighting energy to Shout of Power. And I did not get that. That was unfortunate. So let's Ultra Ball, get rid of Lucario for sure. And I guess an N as well. I'm going to just get Howlucha into play just to have him out there, to have a free retreater. I could have gone for Machoke, but Howlucha is going to be really good against Seismitoad. And I don't know when Garbodor is going to come out, so we'll just stick with this. Unfortunately, have to use a strong energy there. I would have loved to save that for Howlucha or Terrakion, but I didn't draw regular fighting, so kind of have to waste a strong energy on the Landorus there. Hypno-Toxic Laser coming out along with a Burbank City Gym. And a double colorless on a brand new Seismitoad EX. So things are starting to get scary. And an Enhanced Hammer, so that Landorus is not going to be very good from here on out. Enhanced Hammer really hurts the strong energy. And any deck that really relies on special energy. Enhanced Hammer is just, ugh. It is just, ugh. That's my best way to describe it. And we see a Bicycle. And yeah, this is a quad Seismitoad deck. And oh, there's the Muscle Band. So down goes Landorus. Unfortunate. And alright, I'm going to have to draw an energy here to do something. And we did draw a strong and a fighting energy there. So I can choose to Land Crush with Terrakion. That's option number 1. Or Flying Breast with Howlucha, that's option number 2. This is kind of a tough spot. I think I'm just going to go for the Flying Press. This sets up a Land Crush from Terrakion next turn without putting the Terrakion in harm's way. I feel like that's going to have to be my big attacker to close this game out. It's just what I think. We'll see about that. But, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a weird game, that's for sure. I don't really know how it's going to play out. I do know a Hypno-Toxic Laser would really make things bad here. I was really hoping to draw Fighting Stadium that turn. And, I probably should have attacked with Terrakion, because if my opponent does get a Laser here, it sets me up in a weird spot where I cannot retaliate for a knockout because I get knocked out by Poison. And then, the Seismitoad over there can Grenade Hammer next turn, and it's just going to be ugly. But thankfully, no Hypno-Toxic Laser, and Howlucha will survive. So that is actually really, really big. And now I got to decide what to do. I have a third Fighting Energy. I'm pretty much definitely going to Land Crush here, unless I draw a Fighting Stadium. Then I would just Flying Press. Seems to make the most sense. I have the Silver Bangle on Terrakion, which will allow me to Land Crush. And I have a couple options. I could Karina, get him a Choke, and, try to do something that way. Or Juniper, try to draw a Fighting Stadium. But I really don't want to give my opponent too many cards here. Number 1, I don't want Grenade Hammer to happen on my Terrakion next turn. That would leave me in a very vulnerable spot. Number 2, I don't want to be End. I'm going to be going down to 1 prize. So I'm going to do the weird defensive N where I'm playing an N so my opponent can't end me. I don't draw the Fighting Stadium, so I have to Land Crush, put Terrakion in the harm's way. Oh boy. So this is going to be a very close finish. Now, even though my opponent could Grenade Hammer, kind of give me a turn of items, it's still going to be rough. And oh no, the end to 1 happens anyway. So will we see the Grenade Hammer? We see the Float Stone, and oh, just a Quaking Punch. So, oof. All right, we dodged the bullet there. Going to go with the Juniper off the end of 1, so that is just huge. Got a Fighting Stadium, got a new Terrakion. Oh man, things are looking okay now, folks. Wow, what a turnaround there. End of 1, get the Juniper. That was pretty fortunate, gotta say. I do have a lot of supporters left, but Juniper was the best one I could have drawn, definitely. Wow, this is a crazy, crazy back and forth game. And the Burbank City Gym comes down, but my opponent can't Quaking Punch because Howlucha is waiting in the wings, ready to Flying Press. But Terrakion lives, and that means with that Lysander, we can land crush for the game on that Seismitoad EX. And what? I didn't even get Machamp out that game. What in the world is that? But but that actually just shows you the power of these non-EXs. The Hawlucha, the Landorus, the Terrakion. Hey, these little guys pack a punch with strong energy. And, imagine if we actually got Machamp into play and did some additional damage. We could have done a lot more damage. Could have gotten some big one-hit knockouts. But forcing your opponent to take all 6 prizes, 6 knockouts, can be brutal. So I guess that's what we proved there. We can overcome the odds without Machamp. But when he gets in play, boy, just wait and see how powerful that is. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.